Welcome everybody to part 2 of my wish list for the Elder Scrolls 6. Now I didn't mean to make a part 2, but what happened was, well, have you ever gotten into an argument with someone and after it was done you thought of a bunch of different things to say? Well yeah, that's kind of what happened here, so here's part 2 of my wish list. First thing I want is a form of survival mode. There's many different examples I could use for this, like Fallout 4, New Vegas, and mods like Frostfall. But in reality, I'm happy as long as they make it so you have to eat, sleep, and drink. They should also add some kind of addiction penalties for skooma, and some kind of disease system. Another part I could see for survival mode, and survival mode only, is a form of weapon and armor degradation. And I am extremely iffy about this. Because if you ever played Oblivion, you know how annoying it can get. I used to carry 2 sets of armor and weapons, plus an additional silver sword just for Ghost. Why didn't I just carry a bunch of repair hammers, you ask? Well, I did, but it takes a while before you can learn to repair enchanted armor and weapons, so I had to have backups for when my gear busted. Which happened. Fast. So if they do it, I want it at like a tenth of the speed of breaking down in Oblivion. And yeah, I know, as you get better with the armor, it doesn't break down as fast. But either way, it's super annoying. The next thing I want is for almost every guild or faction you join, I want to be able to join in an opposing guild or faction. For example, it really annoyed me that I couldn't join the Silver Hand and wipe out the companions. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the companions and their quest line, but the fact I never got a choice to oppose them sucked. I mean, it's not like the Silver Hand were monsters, they were just normal people who opposed werewolves. Another one that really annoyed me is the fact that I couldn't oppose the Thieves Guild. These more options will add tons of replayability and help with role-playing. I mean, how can I roleplay being a hero while also being in charge of both the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood? At least in Skyrim you had the choice to wipe out the Dark Brotherhood. Speaking of faction and guilds, another thing that annoyed me so much in Skyrim is the fact that I could walk into an Imperial camp wearing Stormcloak armor and they wouldn't even care. So my next wish is that the NPCs would recognize armor like they did in Fallout New Vegas. If you're not familiar with that game, there are many factions, and by wearing a faction's armor, you'd be automatically marked as an enemy to rival factions and armies. Hell, by wearing faction armor, people would just talk to you different and treat you like you were part of that faction. Example of this is, I walked into a bar once wearing faction armor, and the bartender starts off saying, "I thought you guys weren't allowed in here." Another example is talking to an officer in that faction, and they call you out asking you why you're wearing their armor, because they know you aren't stationed at this base. It just adds unique dialogue for different situations, which makes the game more immersive, and I love that. And I really just absolutely want that in the next game so bad. The next one is a given for anyone. Better AI. Duh. It's without even needing to be said that the next game is going to have better AI. But there's just one thing I want them to fix. As soon as the enemy is alerted, they stay alerted. Just please, no more arrows in the head of bandits, and a few seconds later, oh, must have been the wind. No, it's not the frickin' wind. You have an arrow sticking out of your eye. That's just so dumb. So please, just make them alert and actively looking for you. Next thing is bigger cities and more villages. I felt that the cities in Skyrim were smaller than Oblivion, and there were a lot less villages. Hell, Winterhold, a region capital, is smaller than most villages in Oblivion. And it doesn't have any villages, just a mine. How do you have a whole region made up of one city? Skyrim in general just felt way too underpopulated. So while we are on this topic, let's add more NPCs walking the roads and doing NPC stuff in the wild, like hunting, camping, and adventuring. I mean, you can't be the only person out on an adventure. Yeah, and Skyrim did have mercenaries once in a while, but I don't know, it just felt so underdone. However, there is a big drawback to this request, and that is the Elder Scrolls 6 is most likely to be set in Valenwood, Blackmarsh, or as I believe it to be, elsewhere. And I mean elsewhere as in the province, not elsewhere as it's going to be someplace else. Haha, puns. But these places also happen to be the least civilized provinces of all of Tamriel. So though I want bigger cities, it doesn't fit lore much to have them in these provinces. But hey, they can still do a bunch of little villages and more NPCs in the wild. So this is the second part of my Elder Scrolls 6 wishlist video. I'm not trying to make this a series, so hopefully this is my last installment. If you liked the video, please leave a like and share it, because maybe it will lead to someone who is part of making the game and could help influence it. But anyways, thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. Oh, and as a bonus request, can we not make the Imperial soldiers, go back in time? I know it's not set in, a real timeline, but look at the Imperial soldier in the background. If you played Oblivion or Morrowind, their armor is just so much worse. Even in ESO, which takes place 1,000 years before Skyrim, the Imperial soldier's armor just looks way more sophisticated. And I know the Imperial army is breaking down and it's at its lowest point in history, but would they just stop wearing pants? What is with that? And I know they're based off the Roman army, but this is kind of getting into a rant. But can we just not do this? Let's make them actual, yeah, let's just make them better. Thank you for watching this, and I'm sorry for my little rant at the end. Alright, have a good one, everybody.